everybody, and welcome to another exciting episode, we hope, of No Bull with Alan Dietz. So glad to have you here this week as we get set for another great week of short track racing here in America and on Ultra Broadcasting. Of course, we weren't with you last week, so want to recap a little bit and congratulate the most recent winner of the Montana 200, which you saw here on Ultra Broadcasting from Mission Valley Super Oval, Trevor Christiani. Congratulations to him, and really enjoyed having the Montana 200 on this year on Ultra Broadcasting. Actually, this weekend, you'll be able to see Mission Valley Super Oval with their USA Late Model Series, as well as the UARA Sportsman cars at Mobile International Speedway. Last week, big weekend, of course, at North Wilkesboro Speedway, which all started with the cars, late model stocks and cars, pro late models in action on Friday night. Caden Honeycutt, man, he is getting it done whenever he races that late model. Not able to race it often because, of course, he's running the truck series in that number 11 truck where he's already got a win this year. But man, they are so tough in that 17 car with the late model stock division, and also, as we said, won the pro late model division in his car number 54. And it makes you think as these big end of season races come up that won't conflict with the truck series schedule, I think you'd have to put Caden Honeycutt right up there on top as far as having a shot at getting a win as we close out the month of July here in a few more days. Things will pick up again here on Ultra Broadcasting. Florence Motor Speedway, Lakeview Motor Speedway, they both took the months of July off. They'll be back here on Ultra Broadcasting. We'll continue to have the great UARA racing, including the UARA national cars at Golden Sand Speedway up in Wisconsin. Ty Majeski entered for that race. I think Michael Atwell has entered, and that's going to be a great race to watch as well. Well, one of the big stories that everybody has been watching really the entire year has been what was going on with the International Hot Rod Association. The IHRA purchased a bunch of racetracks, started series, all sorts of stuff, from power boats and stock cars to off-road vehicles and late models. But unfortunately, now IHRA in the spotlight for all the wrong reasons. Discuss more about what is going on with IHRA. Joining us now with CycleDrag is Jack Korpela, and we're a circle track show, primarily grassroots racing, but as the title says, it's no bull. And I wanted to have you on because I got to tell you, I've been doing this now for 25 years, majored in mass communications, so studied broadcast and things of that nature. You have done an outstanding job with this IHRA coverage, and I know it's not necessarily something that you wanted to have to do, but I just want all the folks to go to your pages, CycleDrag on Facebook, check out YouTube, and you really need to go back and look over some of this stuff. As we stand right now, Jack, it does not seem like things are getting any better from IHRA's standpoint.
Boy, it doesn't, Alan. I've got my fingers crossed, and thank you so much for having me on. Thank you for the kind words. I got pushed back in my chair a little bit because I'm not used to kind words, as you know.
No, what you've done has been great. I mean, it really has. I mean, it's weird what will pop up on your Facebook, with the analytics and things like that, but your coverage of this whole story is really, really been good, really been in depth and well researched. And where do we kind of stand right now? Because as I said, you come at it from a drag racing point of view, but with all the moves they made at the end of last year, they really kind of got their hands in a little bit of everything.
Yeah, I have a long history with the IHRA as a drag racing guy. I'm a big fan. I actually worked for one of the iterations because it's had several different ownership groups. That was about 10 years ago. And since then, the IHRA has been in a bit of a downward spiral. Well, I would say 2 years ago when Daryl Cuttle and his team arrived, I was told by a few insiders, this is going to be different. This guy's got a budget like we've never seen before. And I said, oh, okay, we've seen this movie play out before. Well, then all of a sudden they started buying racetracks and series. And I knew that Daryl wanted a Nitro series to rival the NHRA. And what I had heard is it's about a year in the making. Well, next thing you know, I start hearing commercials about this race that's going to happen in less than 6 weeks. And I'm like, these guys are going to do a national event in 6 weeks? That would be like somebody going head to head with NASCAR
Yeah,
and saying, hey, Charlotte Motor Speedway, 6 weeks from now, let's go.
it's exactly the same.
So I just couldn't believe anybody had the budget or wherewithal to do this because normally to get the most bang for your buck, you would want a long time to promote this to let the fans know about it. So I jumped on a plane and went to Columbus, Ohio, the track that they bought, formerly National Trail Raceway. And immediately I could tell this was not the old IHRA. We had brand new, expensive signage. Everything had a fresh coat of paint. The livery, the logos, the uniforms looked wonderful, well staffed. And I said, wow, they do have some budget. And then as I dug in a little deeper, just because I've been on the promotion side of the sport, the business end of the sport, I worried, is this sustainable? I didn't see any major sponsors. I didn't see grandstands full. And they just kept picking up momentum where eventually at PRI, we learned that not only was it going to be drag racing, it was going to be the stock cars. It was going to be power boats. It was going to be pulling. It was going to be like 6 or 7 different series. And I know, you know, from being in motorsports, I know from being in motorsports, the amount of manpower and know-how it takes to make one series successful is off the charts. And I'm thinking, how in the world are they going to be able to make this work with this many forms of racing? And unfortunately, it was about, 2 weeks ago that we heard the Outlaw Nitro Series would be canceled. I worried, is this domino number one? Knowing what I knew, a lot of the racers thought, oh, this is just a blip in the radar and they're restructuring. And there could be a slim chance of that. But for them to cancel the rest of their season and then cancel the stock car season, it's very, very ominous.
Yeah, I kind of come at it, from the same place that you do. That I've seen some of the inner workings of promotions and things of that nature. And anybody that I talk to that on the racetrack or on the series, we all were like, this will never make it past 2 years, but we did think it would make it, that it would make it through this year. So we are hearing people aren't getting paid purses. I know from the last stock car race at Anderson, nobody got paid, or at least that's the way I understand it. You posted a story today about, which I can very well feel for these folks. TV contractors, things of that nature, they're not getting paid. I do want to touch on Rockingham, but before that, is it a matter of not having enough money, or is it a matter of biting off more than they could chew at one time?
I think it's a combination of both. I want to be very careful when I talk to you, especially since you are a great journalist, that I want to separate fact and opinion because I have a certain
Right.
amount of facts and then I have an opinion that I can't prove. I'll give
And,
you.
and let me just say this is I want to make very clear on this. This is not to rip IHRA, and I am more than glad, and I have invited folks from IHRA to talk to us. They're not talking a whole lot, and I don't. Maybe that is the smart thing to do in this situation, but I don't know.
What I'm hearing, and you're exactly correct. And some detractors have attacked me that, hey, you're hurting the sport covering this. And I'm saying, look, I'm just trying to get the information out there. And this is a big story that I didn't create the story. You didn't create the story. We're covering the story. Daryl Cuttle had a whole lot of passion for racing. And I really wish this wouldn't have happened. My over under was 5 years. If they could make it 5 years, I said, no matter what happens, this would be good for motorsports because of all the money that they were pumping in. If
And
it
that's more than generous. 5 years was more than generous. And I'm the same way as you. When I looked at how much they were paying these late model guys for two divisions, I mean, they had good car counts, but there should have been 50 cars at these races. But the problem was people didn't see how it was viable, and part of they were right on the cusp because they were starting to get some names at that Anderson race. And I think if they could have paid those guys and ran the next race, they could have really been a thorn in maybe the Cars Tour side. But the guys that weren't coming didn't come because they thought something like this might happen.
You're 100% correct. And that echoes exactly what was happening on the drag racing side. All the big dogs over there, from the Colettas to the Forces to the Tony Stewarts, they were waiting to see what happened. And if this thing had legs for 3, 4 years and people were getting paid, I guarantee you they would have come over. But now this is a disaster. This is what every expert and insider predicted and feared, that this would blow up. If you ask me my opinion, where all this came from, it appears that it all centers around Dorana Hybrid, which is Daryl Cuddle's electrical company, and the data center that he built for Elon Musk, Colossus One in Memphis. If you do a little bit of research about these data centers, you know right now they are so valuable. They are so expensive to build. So I believe that Daryl did good work, got in the good graces of this company, got a massive payout, thought that it was going to continue. And a lot of people thought that he was buying these tracks to turn them into data centers. I looked at that theory initially, but I don't think that there was a parallel there in that. I thought the red herring was the connection with Elon Musk. I don't think Elon Musk needs to buy racetracks if he wants data centers. Right. I think Daryl Cuddle had such a great relationship with the company and was making so much money that, as one insider told me, this was his gone fishing money. It's just, our gone fishing money might be a couple $100. His was millions, hundreds of millions.
Well, his might have gone down the drain.
Yeah, it sure did.
You
know? So where things came crashing down, what just amazes me is there was an awful lot of money on the table last year. And I've said this to a lot of my friends that are experts, but again, I'm not the genius electrical contractor that Daryl Cuddle is. These guys, they think a little bit differently. They act a little bit differently. If somebody would have been conservative with this money, do you realize how long we could have made it last?
Yeah, and that's what I told some people. And again, we're coming at it from two different sides, but I think it's the same situation. I was like, you are paying way too generous. I was like, you could cut back $10,000 on what you're paying the winners of these races, and even on down the line, and you're still going to be outpaying people. And but by paying all this extra money, you're not picking anything up, and they definitely weren't picking fans up. That was, I know they had the fans on and all that stuff, and I thought that was great, and I think that that's something that has been needed, but you got to promote it to the general public to get them to the races, and I just didn't see a lot of that.
No, I'm right in line with you, and like I said, old ways die hard as a promoter, because what irks me is Top Fuel Motorcycle at the last race was paid $30,000. Now that is just ridiculous. I'm happy for those guys, don't want to disparage their payout, but we would work so hard as an organization to raise $10,000, which is an adequate payout for them.
Right.
I thought, if you're Daryl Cuddle, how about 15? And then what if you put 15 into local advertising to try to get some people in the stands to try to get some ROI? That's why the spending didn't make sense. And what really doesn't make sense to me is I've had the good fortune of working for very, very successful people, and they are such enigmas. But one that comes to mind is I worked at Lucas Oil, and the late, great Forrest Lucas would always say the best deals are cash, and he paid with everything cash as much as he possibly could. They didn't want any debt. I figured Daryl was the same way. So now with all these people coming back saying that they're owed money, it was a bit of a surprise to me.
Well, I think you hit the nail on the head. I think if they could have spent some of this, $15,000 in promotion to buy TV ads and radio and things like that, goes a long way. I mean, that goes a real long way. And, with the fan zones and all the stuff that they had outside of these races, that was going to get people that were not like me or you that were going to go to the race anyway. This was going to get the ones that go to Crash-O-Ramas or go to monster truck shows or things like that. And hey, there's a race going on too. Or at least that's the way that I would look at it. Um, okay, Rockingham. I don't want you to give away too much because again, we want people to go to CycleDrag on Facebook and YouTube and check it out. But
And this story is actually on Racing Jack YouTube. If they can
okay,
get that one out, there. Thank you.
well, Racing Jack YouTube, in a nutshell, if I remember this correctly, if I understand this correctly, when when they bought Rockingham, they bought everything. The circle track and the drag strip. So everybody's wanting cup races. Everybody's wanting NASCAR races back at Rockingham. Just tell me what you know right now.
Oh boy. Well, what it appears in Rockingham is this is a long, tangled, tumultuous story that IHRA is just a small part of. Taxpayer money went to help the racetrack, and
Yep.
that's not totally uncommon in
Yep.
sports. We see these grants given because different sports teams and different racing tracks bring in economic impact.
And North
Well,
Carolina specifically got a lot of money. That's basically what rebuilt North Wilkesboro. It went to all the short tracks in North Carolina. It went to get Rockingham repaved. So a lot of that money um, was meant for good reasons. But okay, so you got that, and I don't want to jump ahead here, but if I understood correctly, with that grant money, a certain amount of it had to be spent in a certain amount of time, and that may not be where you're going with this, but continue.
Well, I know some taxpayers were upset that I believe last fall, $375,000 went to the Speedway for safe barriers. And it was really pushed through by what is the gentleman's title? The Richmond County Manager,
Hmm.
Brian Land. And this guy appears to love racing as much as us. The problem is Gina Esposito of WSOC, the affiliate down there, started doing an investigation. And it sounds like not everything may have been out in the open. And then it comes out that Land's family owns a parking lot next to the Speedway and they've been selling spots for 6 years. So it's not necessarily unheard of or a bad thing that taxpayer money would go to Rockingham, but some just questioned if the entire board was gave their approval. And then the story takes another turn when the racetrack suddenly sold. So now taxpayers are saying, wait a minute, $375,000 and we just helped the owner flip this thing.
Right.
Well, what Brian Land's contention is going to be, because I actually spoke to him on the phone, he said we'd do this deal 10 times over because we need NASCAR. That's how important NASCAR is. But I just wonder now, do they know all of this uncertainty with the IHRA? Because the IHRA, if your viewers don't know, they stunned us on New Year's Eve. I sat right here in this chair and did a video on New Year's Eve when they announced they had bought Rockingham
Yeah.
Speedway, not the drag strip, but the Speedway.
And it shocked everybody. So on our side of it, uh, Bob Sargent and Track Enterprises basically were leasing the track the last couple of years from the folks that owned it to do the truck and what's the O'Reilly Series races now. And Bob Sargent's had a long relationship with NASCAR, so there was a tie in there. Um, as I understood things, he was about this close to having it bought, and then IHRA came in there and took it out from under him, and then he's sitting there kind of like, okay, he's totally out of it. So what I told people is the reason that they got the NASCAR races that they did get there the last couple of years was because of that existing relationship that Bob Sargent and Track Enterprises already had with NASCAR. So when the IHRA thing happened, I was like, there's no way in the world a cup race is ever going to go to Rockingham now. But this is my thought. Okay, if the IHRA needs money, and NASCAR wants to get back to Rockingham, this may not be a bad thing to where NASCAR or Speedway Motorsports can buy at least a circle track, because I just don't see them giving races to anybody that's not affiliated with Speedway Motorsports or NASCAR, at least in my thought.
You are much more educated on NASCAR's direction than I am. I know that what you're saying is exactly what I've said about NHRA. Maple
Mm-hmm.
Grove Raceway is in the same situation. It was one of their top 5 national events. It was sold to the IHRA, and I said, boy, if ever was a time for NHRA to step up and save one of its tracks, what I'm being told, I don't know if it's the same way at NASCAR, is NHRA doesn't want to own a large portfolio of tracks. They have
No,
enough.
Believe me, NASCAR and Speedway Motorsports are not of that ilk. They won't, if they're going to have races there, it's either going to be NASCAR or Speedway Motorsports. Pretty much, when you look at the tracks out there now, I think the only one that is not owned by either one of those is Indianapolis. But
Indianapolis.
it's Indianapolis and Roger
Well, I would
Penske.
think
So,
that would be wonderful for the people of Rockingham if
yeah,
NASCAR came in and bought the track. I mean, that would guarantee you some NASCAR races, and nobody would take better care of the property than them. So
right.
I'm just curious where this goes, because I love racing, you love racing, but let's be honest. If I was a taxpayer upset that my tax dollars went to the racetrack, and the promise was, well, we're going to get so much economic impact because we're going to have these big NASCAR races, and now all of a sudden there's no answers.
Yeah.
I would be upset.
I think Rockingham will still will be okay, and it may actually, like I said, actually be in a better spot now than it would have been if IHRA had it. So to wrap it up, does IHRA have a pulse, or is it done? What do you think? This is a
Well,
think question, an opinion question.
I will give you my answer. And yes, this is totally opinion. And I talked about this too on my video and Racing Jack YouTube. You guys can check that out. But what I say, there's always a chance. It's not the chance everybody is thinking, though. What are most fans thinking? They're thinking Daryl needs to go out and get sponsors. There's not a sponsor big enough to cover what he was spending. There's not a sponsor that probably wants to be associated with this. What could happen, which I'm not discounting, I will give them a pulse. Daryl Cuddle knew how to build Colossus, right? There's a lot of companies out there that need data centers. If his relationship with Elon Musk is truly over, what about Meta? What about Alphabet? What about OpenAI? If he gets another data center contract and that money starts flowing in again, we could potentially see things turn back on. But I think that's the only way. I don't
Yeah,
think some people were telling me, Monster Energy needs to come in and this sponsor. Why would they want to be involved in a
yeah.
project like this that had no ROI, really, no chance to succeed as a business?
Well, that is the biggest problem is when you looked at it, there was no way you could make a profit. And I do think, and I want to be careful about how I say this, but I do think with the right personnel and with him listening to the right people who will actually tell him the truth, which that may be part of the problem with some of the folks that don't work there anymore. But I think he's got to be willing to listen to people that know what they're talking about. And just like you said, take that extra $15,000 out of the purse and put it towards some advertising. You're already going to get the cars. Try to get the people in the front gate. That's the problem that racetracks are having now, as it is they can't get people in the grandstands. You could have 150 cars, but if you got 150 people in the grandstands, what does it matter?
Yes. I've only talked to Daryl Cuddle a couple times, but from everything that I'm learning now, my opinion, if I had to surmise what happened here, I would say compulsion might
Yeah,
have been a big part of it. And that I've talked to some of his friends, some of his insiders, and they said he's the kind of guy, he sees a shiny penny, pick it up. Another shiny penny, pick it up. Because the list of toys, from the dozens and dozens of brand new pickup trucks to he bought a top fuel motorcycle that belonged to one of my good buddies, Larry McBride. What is he going to do with a
yeah.
top fuel motorcycle worth at least $250,000? I have no idea. All these series, I have no idea. So I guess it really irks me. A man who is successful can go buy as many toys as he wants. But when we're hearing these horror stories about people not being paid, that's what doesn't sit very easy with me.
Well, I could tell you, and you know this as well as I do, throwing money at the problems there are in racing, that is not, more times than not, that's not going to fix it. So, if you will, give us a plug one more time where folks can check your stuff out.
Thanks so much. I appreciate it. A lot of the IHRA content is on Racing Jack YouTube. Also have CycleDrag Facebook where I post everything, and I have CycleDrag YouTube as well for you to check out. So thanks so much for having me on, man. Always up to talk motorsports, and look at what happened in a year. We would have
Yeah.
never, I'd have never guessed a year ago this was going to all unfold. I'd have never guessed 6 months ago. Maybe 6 months from now, we're talking about how Daryl's got a new data center and is taking on the world. I don't know. I hope for some good news, but boy, it's getting dicey out there.
Well, I'm going to tell you again, you've done a great job throughout this entire process, sourcing and confirming stuff. And kudos to you. I mean, you've done a heck of a job, and I really appreciate you joining us and talking with us a little bit about it.
Thank you very much, man. Never want to put out false information. That's for sure. We're all allowed to give our opinion, right? We all have that God-given right here in this great country. But the facts that I try to put out, I try to back up. And some people misunderstood. I'm sure you get a few haters from time to time that, hey, what are you doing here? And what are you trying to do to the sport? And it's like, guys, I'm just covering the story. My example was, ESPN didn't ignore Deflategate or Spygate or any unpleasant story. And we all love the NFL. So sometimes you got to cover these things, and I'll tell them. I said it once. I'll say it again, Alan. We didn't create the story. We just covered it.
If you love grassroots racing, Ultra Broadcasting is for you. From the UARA and the biggest short track races in the country to the best of the Carolinas, from Florence and Anderson to Southern National and Carteret County. Plus, Alabama's Mobile International Speedway and the Big Five Super Late models at Montana's Mission Valley Super Oval, and exclusive original programming. To catch it all, subscribe to ultrabroadcasting.com today.
You're not just any do-it-yourselfer. You use inspiration to bring projects to life. And just when a project seems too large, you head to your local Sunbelt Rentals. There, you'll find the latest in tools and equipment to make your next job your easiest project ever. Plus, they even deliver to your job site. Sunbelt Rentals, taking DIY projects to an all-new level.
I'm John.
And I'm Ben.
And we're the Kubota Tractor Guys. Kubota means quality and nationwide rates highest in customer satisfaction.
Discover Kubota's durability you can count on with a 6-year powertrain warranty.
Big Sky Kubota stocks a large selection of tractors and implements.
Stop in and see our wide selection of mowers, excavators, and RTVs.
Big Sky Kubota's service techs can help you get the most of your Kubota.
Big Sky Kubota. Remember, think orange.
Premier American patriotic fraternal charitable organization.
I bet you didn't know. The Elks are fueling the future of youth racing. Join us at the Elks, supporting young drivers and giving new life to our mission. On the track and in your community, we're building future leaders. We are shining a spotlight on the values that make the Elks great. By showcasing our commitment to future leaders, we're making it easier than ever to see how great it is to be an Elk.
Visit discoverelks.org today.
And joining us now, one of the drivers you'll be able to see at Mobile International Speedway as part of the UARA Sportsman division, as Tim Sozio. Tim, thanks for joining us.
Yeah, thanks for having me, Alan.
So, the year so far, how would you assess it?
I would say this year we've had a pretty good season so far. Obviously, we haven't been able to win any races yet, which is kind of obviously the ultimate goal every time we go to the track. But we've had a lot of speed. We've qualified really well pretty much every race. We've been up towards the front. We've had a couple opportunities to win races, but a couple things that just didn't go our way. But I think overall, we've been happy with the finishes. We've been really consistent, getting a lot of top fives. So you kind of can't complain with that.
What do you feel like has made this season so competitive, or is it just a car? And the reason I ask that is, you haven't won a race this year. Dodge Colbert hasn't won a race. I think he had at least 5 wins last year. So what do you feel like that attributes to?
I just think that a lot of guys are getting faster. There's a little bit more parity throughout the field, I would say. And then some of the races have just kind of been crazy. We've had a lot bigger inverts this year, honestly. So I think that's probably contributing to it because there's not that much difference in speed between the guy that qualifies first and 10th or 12th sometimes. So it makes it hard to pass and more things can happen that way. So I think that's probably part of it too. But, I think overall it's just guys being a little bit quicker than they've been in the past throughout the field.
And the invert's random draw, right?
Yeah, the dice roll.
Mm-hmm. So you're inverting potentially anywhere from what to what?
I think the minimum right now is 7 and the maximum is 12. So
Wow.
anywhere between 7 and 12. And I think most of the races it's been between 10 and 12.
Yeah.
For the most part.
Well, and I got to think too, when you're, racing at places like, Citrus County and Auburndale, they're tight, short racetracks. I would think that invert is even tougher at a place like that.
Yeah, I mean, Citrus isn't too bad because the fall off there is pretty good. So you're able to make some passes if your car's handling good. You're able to get up underneath guys. Auburndale is tough. We've just raced there, I feel like, the most out of any track on the schedule. So a lot of people have that place figured out a little bit better. And it's got a ton of grip. So it's really hard to pass there. The only time you can really make anything happen is on restarts. So, but yeah, I think the smaller tracks, it's definitely tougher, a little bit more, more contact can happen. So there's just more variables.
Most of your races are, centered there in Central Florida. I know you guys went out to South Alabama. That's a bigger racetrack. Obviously, going to Mobile this weekend, it's going to be the biggest racetrack you guys have raced on at a half mile. What are your expectations?
I grew up racing at New Smyrna. So I'm used to racing on the bigger tracks. Plus, we have the Pro Late model that we run. We've ran Montgomery and Pensacola and stuff this year. So I think for me personally, it won't be a lot different. We haven't run this car specifically on big tracks a ton. So we'll just have to kind of figure out what it likes, what it doesn't like, and hopefully we can unload pretty decent. But I think I expect to be fast. I expect to be competitive, and I'm sure a lot of the guys also feel the same. So I think it's still going to be a really good race.
How does that racetrack race for you guys? You expect?
I've never been there personally to Mobile. I know last time that they went there, there was a lot of issues with the tires and fall off and tires coming apart. So I think that's still going to probably play into it. I know the late models have to deal with that a lot there. So, I really don't know what to expect. I'm hoping that, it's not just riding around for a lot of the laps trying to save tires, but at the same time, I think that might be part of the strategy. So we'll just have to see how it goes when we get there and kind of see how the tires are wearing and kind of take it from there.
Well, and as you mentioned, 75 laps at Mobile. That's going to be a long race.
Yeah. It's going to be way longer than what we're used to. We'll see. Hopefully there's a little bit less cautions than we've had recently. It might be a little bit more spread out. So we'll see. Yeah, 75 laps at Mobile is a lot different than 75 laps at Auburndale, for sure.
About the Pro Late model, I know we've seen you, it seems like the last few years, race it a little bit more and a little bit more. You're finding speed in it. Where do you feel like you're at right now with the Pro Late model, and how how different is it from the Sportsman car?
Driving wise, it's way different. Just the feel of having the bump stops and everything like that. It's just a totally different way to drive. But I would say power wise, it doesn't really feel a whole lot different, the Pro compared to the Sportsman. I would say this year we got a new car, thanks to Matt with Hisco Pump. And I mean, we were finding speed. We ran second at the Red Eye at New Smyrna in January. We qualified, 6th, I think, at Pensacola. We were in the invert at Montgomery when we went there. So I think we've been finding speed with it. We just need to, figure out how to keep the speed in it on the long run. That's where we've been struggling a little bit. But I enjoy doing that. It's a challenge going out of state and racing with some of these bigger teams and things like that.
So in October at Mobile, they're paying $50,000 to win. Can I assume that you may be getting a little practice in, at least learning the racetrack in the Sportsman car for that Pro race coming up?
Yeah, we'll have to see what the schedule looks like. I'd like to go there if we can. Obviously working for the Dolphins. We've got a lot of football games, so I think there might be a football game that Sunday. So I'll have to see what we can work out. But yeah, I'd love to go to that race for sure if we can make it work.
Well, speaking of that, I mean, all of you guys at this level of racing's got day jobs. Yours is pretty unique. You mentioned the Dolphins. What do you do with the Dolphins, and what do you expect out of them this year?
Yeah, I mean, I work in sales, so I work in like corporate hospitality sales, group tickets, that type of thing. I'm actually sitting in a suite right now, so we'll see how the season goes. It's a lot of unknowns, and I think we're liking the direction with the new front office that we've got.
Oh crap! I just realized I got all my Chief stuff behind me too. I probably should have. Maybe I should have moved that. I don't know. Well, Tim, I appreciate you joining us. I know you're busy, and I think the race this weekend at Mobile is going to be outstanding. So good luck this weekend, and I'm sure we'll be talking more.
All right. Thanks, Alan.
Tax season giving you headaches? Meet SRQ Taxes, your tax pros in Sarasota ready to make taxes simple. Whether you're filing personal returns or business taxes, SRQ Taxes handles it with accuracy, speed, and care. Trusted by locals in Sarasota, these experts help save time and money. No stress, no guesswork. We can file taxes from anywhere and every state via a secure portal. Ready to take control of your taxes? Visit srqtaxes.com to book your appointment today. SRQ Taxes. Navigate your tax journey with confidence.
The best time of the year in Montana is here, and adventure won't wait. Now's the time to gear up and get out there. Whether it's the lake, the mountains, or off-the-grid back roads, Missoula Chevrolet has the lineup to take you there. Shop over 100 Chevy trucks, all with one low price, plain and simple, always. Their non-commissioned sales team is ready to help you find the perfect fit. No pressure, just the right truck for your next expedition. Stop by today at 3663 North Reserve Street in Missoula. Missoula Chevrolet. Together, let's drive.
Well, we want to thank all of our guests for joining us this afternoon. If you've got any suggestions, anybody you'd like to see on the show, any questions or comments, you can find me on X at Real Alan Dietz or on Facebook, and we welcome those comments. As we mentioned earlier in the show, another big weekend of racing here on Ultra Broadcasting. Saturday night, UARA Sportsman, UARA Crown Vics, and lots more will be in action at Mobile International Speedway. Both partners of ours, UARA and Mobile. That's going to be a great night of action there. Should start somewhere around 8:30, 9 o'clock Eastern time. And around that same time, you can also tune in to Mission Valley Super Oval, as they've got their weekly series back underway featuring the USA late models. Remember, if you can't watch both at the same time. Well, I guess if you got two computers or your computer and your phone, I guess you could do that. But anyway, you can watch on demand. If you watch one live and want to go back and watch the other, you can check that out. Remember, you just got to be a subscriber. ultrabroadcasting.com, ultrabroadcasting.com. Get that subscription. You can also listen to our show where podcasts are available, and we're also available on YouTube on the Alan Dietz YouTube page, so be sure to check that out. One last thing to talk about, and just see the power of short track racing. This past weekend, Eldora had a $200,000 to win racing. We're used to seeing all the big races in dirt racing, but everything that happened at North Wilkesboro Speedway really started to kind of take shape way back in 2009. Terry Parsons, Benny Parsons' widow, Junior Johnson, and a group of other folks were involved to try and get some short track races there at North Wilkesboro. Of course, many of you know I worked for the Pro All-Star Series for a number of years, and we were able to have the first race back at North Wilkesboro Speedway from that last Cup points race in 1996. We had the first race back there Labor Day weekend in 2010, and Chase Elliott was the winner of that race. The next year, Cars ran a couple of races there after the past races there in September of 2020. Had a few modified races, a couple of different things like that, and then Pass paid $75,000 win in what was dubbed the race. In I think it was April of 2011, had 77 super late models, which for super late models, I think that's the biggest car count that there's been in about 20 years. In the last 20 years, and the late model stocks has had more, but in the last 20 years or so. But after that, the track sit idle again until 2020. Dale Earnhardt Jr. and a group went there to clean the racetrack up, to scan it and get it ready for iRacing. But the racetrack revival in 2022, and again, that was something I was fortunate to be involved with, and Barry Braun, the Cars Tour, the Southern Super Series, the Smart Modifieds, even though it wasn't a smart race, but it was many of the same smart teams raced in that August of 2022 with the racetrack revival, which culminated with just an amazing event. The Cars Tour race that Dale Earnhardt Jr. ran in at the end of that month, and I remember seeing Marcus Smith there and the look on his face at the crowd that showed up at a racetrack that didn't even have running water, didn't have functioning bathrooms, and I think that was the one of everything that we've talked about. That was the one where Marcus and the folks at Speedway Motorsports said, you know what, we can make this thing viable again. And the work they've done at that racetrack to reconstruct it, but at the same time leave the the ambiance and the feel of what made North Wilkesboro. Had a couple of all-star races, and then, of course, the points race this past weekend, which I thought was great. Yeah, it didn't have a lot of wrecks in it and stuff, but if you go back and watch races at Wilkesboro, you never had races, or often you had a lot of races that didn't have a ton of cautions in them, and cars all over the place coming and going, getting lapped inside, outside. And just kudos to everybody, because there's so many people that made what happened this past weekend possible, and the fans were the number one ones to do it, because they supported the events that were going on out there, and they let people see that it was viable. And also Steve O'Donnell, Ben Kennedy, the folks at NASCAR. You know, I've been tough on NASCAR at certain times, but I'll tell you, I think they've got the right leadership in place, and they're doing a great job. And just really great to see North Wilkesboro come back. As I said, the power of short track racing, grassroots racing, and the fans, it all culminated this past weekend, and that was great to see. So with that, for all of us here with Ultra Broadcasting, again, I'm Alan Dietz saying so long. I'll see you next time here on Mobile.